Have you ever found yourself, lying wide awake late at night just staring up at the dark ceiling while your brain endlessly replays a tiny, seemingly insignificant mistake?
Oh, absolutely. It is almost a guarantee that this happens at like 3 in the morning, right?
Yes. Always 3 in the morning.
The rest of the world is completely quiet. Everyone else is asleep, but your mind is just incredibly, overwhelmingly loud. You feel that heat in your face, that flush of embarrassment all over again.
Yeah, it's the worst. Maybe you were at an important event and you used the wrong English phrase in front of a group of people. Or maybe you made a slightly awkward joke at a dinner party. Or accidentally hurt a friend's feelings over a text message.
And you were just lying there in the dark feeling absolutely terrible about it.
Exactly. It feels like your mind is a broken movie projector. It's jammed. And it's forcing you to watch your most uncomfortable, embarrassing moments on this infinite loop projected right onto the ceiling above your bed. You can't unplug the machine and you can't look away.
That broken movie projector is a deeply universal human experience. I mean, we all do it. And the worst part is we often feel completely alone when we are watching that awful movie. But the psychological reality is that every single person walking the earth has a projector just like that in their head, playing their own embarrassing highlight reel.
Knowing that actually brings a lot of relief, I think.
Yeah.
And that is really the core mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the psychological mechanisms behind why we torture ourselves over past mistakes, and more importantly, the very practical steps we can take to finally forgive ourselves.
Yes, the practical steps are so important here.
They really are. And, because this specific deep dive is tailored for you, as a listener who is actively learning English, we are shaping this conversation with that in mind. We are deliberately keeping our speaking pace comfortable, and we're going to naturally highlight some really interesting English idioms and conversational phrases along the way.
Which is great, because having the specific vocabulary to articulate complex emotions is incredibly powerful. When you are processing feelings of guilt or embarrassment in a second language, lacking the right words can actually make you feel more trapped in your own head. Naming the feeling is the very first step to dismantling it.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So let's start dismantling it right now. We all know the agonizing feeling of that late-night replay. But why does the brain insist on doing this? I mean, why do we torture ourselves over an awkward sentence we said, 3 days ago?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, we have to look at a glaring double standard in human behavior. It is a fundamental truth found across all the psychological research in our source materials today.
A double standard.
Yeah. Simply put, we operate with two completely different sets of rules. One for the people we care about and one for ourselves. We are almost always much harder on ourselves than we are on our friends.
Oh, wow. Yeah, think about that for a second. If your closest friend comes to you looking completely defeated and says, I am so embarrassed. I completely messed up my presentation at work today. I stumbled over my words and I looked foolish. Your immediate instinct is to comfort them.
Of course it is.
I would immediately say, please don't worry about it. Everyone stumbles sometimes. You're incredibly smart. And honestly, people were probably checking their phones and didn't even notice. I would do everything in my power to build them back up.
Right, but observe what happens when you make that exact same mistake during a presentation. The voice inside your head does not offer comfort.
No, not at all.
It does not remind you that you are smart. That voice goes on the attack. It says, you are a total idiot. Why did you say that? Everyone in that room thinks you are incompetent.
You ruined your reputation.
Yeah, exactly. When a friend messes up, our automatic response is compassion. When we mess up, our inner critic takes over.
And that is actually one of our key vocabulary words for today, inner critic. I-N-N-E-R space C-R-I-T-I-C. That inner critic is a brutal character. It acts like a harsh voice.
Very harsh.
Which is another great word. Harsh. H-A-R-S-H. It means cruel, severe, completely unforgiving. It lacks any gentleness whatsoever.
And native English speakers have a very specific, incredibly common phrase to describe what this inner critic is doing. People will say, I am so hard on myself.
Yes, you'll hear that constantly in casual conversation. I'm so hard on myself. It simply means that you judge your own actions with a level of severity that you would never apply to anyone else.
And there's an idiom that takes this idea even further. People will say they tend to beat themselves up over a mistake.
Beat themselves up. I find that idiom so fascinating because of the imagery.
Yeah.
I mean, literally beating someone up means to physically attack them, to throw punches.
Right, like in a fight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when we say, I need to stop beating myself up over that grammar mistake, We are talking about emotional punches. We are punishing our own minds. Which leads me to a really puzzling question.
Okay, what's that?
Well, I picture my mind as a courtroom. I am sitting there as the defendant, on trial for making a small error, which is another word for mistake. But I'm also acting as the harshest judge. I am banging the gavel, shouting that I am guilty, completely beating myself up.
That's a great analogy.
But why do we act as this harsh judge? If we would never dream of speaking so cruelly to a friend, what evolutionary purpose does it serve to act as an emotional bully to ourselves?
It's a great question, and the intention behind it is actually self-protection.
Wait, really? Protection?
Yeah, from an evolutionary standpoint, your brain's primary job is to keep you safe from danger. When you make a mistake, say you use the wrong word at a networking event, and someone gives you a strange look, your brain's threat defense system activates. The amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, lights up. Your brain perceives social rejection as a literal threat to your survival.
So my brain treats an awkward social interaction the same way it would treat, like, a tiger jumping out of the bushes.
On a neurological level, yes. It triggers a stress response. And the brain believes that if it punishes you severely enough for that mistake, if the inner judge is incredibly harsh and makes you feel terrible, you will be too afraid to ever make that error again.
So it's trying to scare me into being perfect.
Exactly. The brain thinks, if I beat you up emotionally, you will study your vocabulary harder, you will be more careful, and you will stay safe from social rejection.
So the harsh judge actually believes it's doing me a favor. It thinks that feeling guilty, having that heavy feeling of having done something wrong and shame, are effective teaching tools.
But the research is completely clear on this. This strategy catastrophically backfires.
It doesn't work.
Not at all. When the amygdala is firing and you are constantly beating yourself up, your body is flooded with cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And when you are drowning in cortisol, the learning centers of your brain actually shut down. You become highly anxious, you lose your confidence, and you become trapped in a state of fear.
That makes so much sense.
Because you are so stressed, you are actually much more likely to make mistakes in the future. The harsh judge does not make you a more capable person. It just makes you a miserable, frightened person.
Wow. Okay, so if the courtroom method completely fails, if beating ourselves up just floods us with cortisol and makes us more anxious, we have to find an alternative. How do we step down from the judge's bench? How do we hold ourselves accountable without the mental courtroom?
Well, the alternative is a concept called self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yes. And we need to be very precise about what self-compassion actually looks like in practice because it is heavily misunderstood.
How so?
Many people mistakenly believe that having self-compassion means making excuses. They think it means lowering your standards and saying, oh, well, nothing is my fault.
Yeah, I can see that.
But true self-compassion is the complete opposite of deflection. It is the ability to look directly at your mistake and say, I am human. And human beings, by their very nature, are imperfect and prone to making errors.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because this is where I usually get stuck.
Go for it.
If I am late to work and I miss a major client call and my whole team suffers because of my mistake, if I just shrug my shoulders and say, hey, I'm only human, isn't that just a really convenient, lazy excuse? Doesn't self-compassion just become a license to be irresponsible and avoid fixing my mistakes?
That is the single most common fear people have when they first encounter this concept. They worry that without the harsh judge, they will lose their motivation.
Right.
But let's look at the critical difference between making a lazy excuse and practicing genuine self-compassion. Let's use a very physical scenario. Imagine you're at a friend's house and you accidentally knock over a cup of coffee, spilling it all over their expensive laptop.
Oh, wow. A total nightmare scenario.
An absolute nightmare. Now, if you are relying on the harsh judge, the inner critic, you immediately start beating yourself up. You think, I am a clumsy, terrible person. I ruin everything. My friend is going to hate me.
And death panic sets in.
Exactly. You are so overwhelmed by shame and cortisol that you might actually freeze or even try to hide the damage because the emotional weight is just too heavy.
And what if I take the lazy excuse route?
Well, the lazy excuse, which is deflection, looks like this. You spill the coffee and say, oops, well, I'm only human. Accidents happen. You shouldn't have left your laptop so close to the edge of the table anyway.
Oh, wow. So you can completely avoid responsibility.
Right. You don't feel shame, but you also don't fix the problem.
And neither of those seems helpful to the friend whose laptop is currently soaking in coffee.
Which is exactly why we need the third path,
Yeah.
Self-compassion. Self-compassion looks at the spilled coffee and says, I made a serious mistake and I feel terrible that I damaged your property. I take full responsibility and I will pay to replace this laptop.
Notice the accountability there.
Yes, but crucially, self-compassion adds a second part internally. It says, this was a clumsy accident. It does not mean I am a fundamentally bad or worthless person. My hand just slipped.
That distinction is monumental. Taking responsibility requires you to fix the problem. You still have to buy a new laptop. But beating yourself up believing you are a worthless person because you spilled a drink is just unnecessary extra suffering. It doesn't help your friend, and it destroys your own peace of mind.
Accountability without the psychological torture. And that requires a significant mindset shift, which the psychological literature calls reframing.
Reframing.
Yeah, to reframe something means to look at it through a completely different lens. You cannot change the past. The coffee is spilled, the wrong English phrase was already spoken, but you have total control over how you frame its meaning.
So how do we reframe it?
You have to redefine a failure as a lesson.
A lesson, like something you learn from.
Precisely. The purpose of a mistake is not to punish your present self. The purpose of a mistake is to teach your future self.
The purpose of a mistake is not to punish your present self, but to teach your future self. I love that. That completely changes the energy around making an error.
It really does.
And to help practice this perspective shifting, we have 2 excellent calming English phrases that you can use when you catch your inner critic starting to attack. The first phrase is simple. It's in the past.
It's in the past. It is a gentle reminder to your brain that the threat is over. The broken movie projector is playing a film of an event that no longer exists in physical reality.
Yeah, it's just a memory.
Right. Acknowledging that it is in the past helps tell the amygdala to stand down and stop pumping cortisol into your system.
The second phrase is incredibly powerful, especially when you are tackling something difficult, like learning a new language. The phrase is, I am still learning.
That's a great one.
Yeah. When you use the wrong grammar structure, instead of calling yourself foolish, you say out loud, I am still learning. It immediately reframes the error. It's not a failure. It's just data. It's a stepping stone on the path to fluency.
It creates psychological space for growth. You are giving yourself permission to be a work in progress.
So we understand the psychology of the inner critic. We understand the necessity of self-compassion and the mindset shift of reframing our failures into lessons. But here is where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
How do we practically apply this? I mean, when it is 3 a.m. and the movie projector is jammed, how do we actually physically make peace with that past version of ourselves who said the wrong thing?
Well, our sources outline a very specific, highly actionable visualization exercise to break that cycle.
A visualization exercise. So picturing something in our minds.
Yes. Visualization simply means creating a detailed mental picture. When you are trapped in that late-night loop, I want you to imagine the past version of yourself, the one who just made the mistake sitting in a chair right in front of you.
Oh, interesting. So if I am obsessing over that networking event, I don't just replay the memory from my own eyes. I imagine looking at myself, standing there right after I stumble over my words.
Yes. You step outside of yourself. Look closely at that past version of you. Notice their posture. Notice their facial expression.
They're probably looking pretty upset.
Very upset. They are likely feeling incredibly vulnerable, scared, and deeply remorseful. They are carrying the heavy weight of that error, fearing rejection. Now, from your current, more mature perspective, the perspective of someone who has survived that moment and is safe in bed, I want you to imagine walking over to that past version of yourself and giving them a warm hug.
Wow. Giving your past self a hug. Instead of yelling at them, instead of banging the gavel and acting as the harsh judge, you offer them comfort.
There is a deep neurological reason why this works, actually. It's called psychological distancing.
Psychological distancing. What does that do?
Well, when you are inside the memory, reliving it in the first person, your emotional centers are overwhelmed. But by imagining your past self sitting across from you, by making them a separate entity, you create distance. You shift your brain activity away from the emotional fear center and into the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and empathy.
So you are basically tricking your brain into treating yourself like a friend.
Exactly the point. By offering a hug, you are engaging what psychologists call the mammalian caregiving system.
That makes sense.
You are replacing the harsh stress of cortisol with oxytocin, a hormone associated with safety and connection. You are offering your past self the grace they so desperately needed in that vulnerable moment.
That is so powerful. To put this visualization into practice, the sources provide specific sentences you can use. These are phrases you can literally say out loud to that past version of yourself during the exercise. And the first one is absolutely profound. I made a mistake, but I am not a mistake.
That phrasing is very intentional, and it perfectly captures the essence of psychological distancing.
It beautifully separates a temporary action from a person's permanent identity. I made a mistake. That is an action. It is a verb. It happened once in time. But I am not a mistake. That is identity. It is a declaration of your enduring worth.
Which means you are worthy of respect and love?
Exactly. You are worthy. W-O-R-T-H-Y. Your temporary action does not define your permanent value as a human being.
When you realize that your identity is safe, it becomes much easier to offer forgiveness. Which brings us to the second phrase to practice during the visualization. I forgive myself for not knowing better.
I forgive myself for not knowing better. That involves forgiveness. F-O-R-G-I-V-E-N-E-S-S, which is the act of letting go of that harsh judgment. This is particularly helpful for things we did years ago, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Sometimes we look back at our younger selves and just cringe at the decisions we made or the way we acted.
Well, we judge our past selves using the wisdom we only gained because of those past mistakes.
Right.
It is a highly unfair trial. You have to remember that your past self did not have the knowledge, the maturity, or the emotional tools that you possess right now. They made the best decision they could with the limited resources they had at the time.
So you dismiss the joy, you tell the harsh judge that the trial is over, and once you acknowledge that, you can use the final phrase in the exercise. I am ready to move forward.
I am ready to move forward. To move forward means to progress, to stop letting the past anchor you in place. You are officially pulling the plug on the broken movie projector.
You are choosing peace. You're choosing a state of calmness over the chaos of the mental courtroom.
It's a very intentional choice.
We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We have moved from the dark, anxiety-inducing spiral of the inner critic, explored the biology of why beating ourselves up fails us, and mapped out the practical visualization of self-compassion to help us move forward. As we bring this deep dive to a close, there is one final physical exercise from our source material that I want to invite you to do right now, wherever you are.
It is a physical grounding technique, really designed to solidify everything we've discussed.
Yes. So if you are in a place where you can safely do so, I want you to take your hand and place it gently over your heart. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out. And I want you to slowly, calmly read aloud this healing affirmation. I forgive myself. I am worthy of peace. Let's say it one more time. Let the words really settle. I forgive myself. I am worthy of peace.
That is a profound truth to anchor yourself to. And as you practice this, as you work on turning off that movie projector, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
We have spent this entire time talking about looking inward, how you treat yourself. But consider how this practice inevitably radiates outward. If you can truly master this practice of giving yourself grace, if you can extend deep, genuine forgiveness to yourself for your inevitable human mistakes, how might that fundamentally change the level of patience and empathy you show the next time someone else makes a mistake around you?
Wow, that is a beautiful question to end on. The next time you see someone else's movie projector acting up and you see them beating themselves up, maybe you will be the one equipped to help them unplug it.